unwanted thing, says Mohammad Faisal. It is unwanted. And let's talk about the kind of response we have. Now, the meltdown by the Maldivian ministers, netas, the lobby, call them what you want to, is not surprising. I'm not surprised one bit. But the reaction of the ecosystem here in India, first to Modi bashing and then to India bashing, is abhorrent. To what lengths will we go to appease a vote bank? Dr. Anand Ranganathan, please set this in context for our viewers.
Good evening, Pranesh, and good evening to my fellow panelists. You're absolutely right, but I have to make a couple of points out here. There is good news and there is not so good news. Let me start with the good news. The good news is that our Prime Minister went to our own territory, loved the place, advertised about it, and it kind of, the Indians loved the fact that here was a Prime Minister who was going there and he was advertising a place as a tourist destination. Now, you have to be absolutely demented to think that his advertising in Indian territory would be egregious, or people from other countries would find it not in good taste. I mean, I've never heard that before. Just imagine if Indian were to take umbrage to a Frenchman advertising to destination, for example, Eiffel Tower, or an Englishman advertising his own territory. That's just bizarre. So the good news is that our Prime Minister took active participation in advertising part of our country as a tourist destination. That's the good news. Now the not so good news, and there are two not so good news. I'm sorry to bring that to your attention. Number one, it's all very well to say that Lakshadweep should be an ideal tourist destination. Of course, it has wonderful beaches. But let me give you a comparison. In the last 3 years, 500,000 Indians, Pranesh, have visited Maldives. 9,500 Indians have visited Lakshadweep in the last 1 year. What do we want? There is, of course, lack of infrastructure. Do we want suddenly 4.5 lakh Indians or more than that to descend on Lakshadweep? Unless we make adequate infrastructure, it's going to be catastrophic, not only for the island, but also for the people who visit there. So before you have the infrastructure ready, I don't think we should be in a position to advertise a place as an alternative. Prime Minister Modi did not advertise it as an alternative to Maldives. He certainly said Indians should go there, but only 9,500 Indians per year go there. So clearly, it's not as yet a tourist destination. Coupled with that, the fact that when people go on a tourist destination, they like to drink. So drinking is prohibited. Other meats are prohibited. That's another matter. But finally, the second not so good news, and that's quite disturbing. You see, Pranesh, in the last 3 years, right from the fact that the present Maldivian government, that was an opposition then, has been letting loose an abusive vendetta non-stop against India. The current the chief of Maldives, I would call him chief, not the president or prime minister, because he acts like one, a Chinese puppet. He has been wearing India out t-shirts. He has been walking the street, marching with India out banners for the last 3 years, not just this present, last months. While he's been doing this, while there's been active abuse of India as a, hate piled upon India, 500,000 Indians have visited that country. Now, I ask you a simple question. Would I like to visit a country that is actively abusing us, that is saying Indians out, we don't want you, go out, get out? Would I like to visit that place? I wouldn't. And I'm sure you wouldn't as well. So what explains 500,000 Indians, despite going to a country, despite that country saying Indians out? That is really disturbing, and I want to get to the bottom of it. I'm sure other panelists would like to throw some light on that.
Dr. Ranganathan, now that the sentiments are changing, that I agree with the 2 points that you made in the end. Now that the sentiments are changing, and what we are seeing on social media is a reflection of that. Why are leaders of Team India undermining brand India? That's the question. Now, Tehseen Poonawalla, you are a reasonable person. I can understand when Dr. Ranganathan says, look, the infrastructure on ground is not quite ready. But the Prime Minister did not say that, look, after I return, you are taking the next flight. He didn't say that. Why are we seeing or allowing or turning a blind eye to India bashing?
Good evening, Pranesh. Thank you for having me on the show. And for those of the fellow panelists who I haven't met before, a very happy new year. A couple of things. We are very grateful that the Honorable Prime Minister went to Lakshadweep. I have been to Lakshadweep. I've been fortunate enough, my wife and me, to go there. So fabulous, and he's promoted it. And like Dr. Anand Ranganathan rightly said, the Prime Minister was not putting any other nation down. He was promoting a part of India, which is his duty to do. So kudos to him. I think the larger point that we need to understand in this issue is a lot of Indians do own hotels in Maldives. So while I think it is terrible what Maldives is doing, I think it's terrible. I think there has to be, from the government side, and kudos to the government, they've handled this so far well. There has to be, it can't be like social media. You can't go all out. You have to take this, talk to them, and now start working with them and getting the sentiment down. So first, a lot of Indians own hotels. I think about 30,000 Indians also work in Maldives directly, mostly in the hospitality sector, actually all of them in the hospitality sector. So we have to protect our interests and our assets. That's point number one. Dr. Anand Ranganathan is absolutely right about the hate campaign in Maldives. This started actually 2 or 3 years ago, and sometimes I think, what is the raw desk doing? They completely missed the boat in Nepal when the Medicis were left out of the constitution that had to lead to the Prime Minister blocking Nepal. Nepal is a great friend of ours. They completely missed the desk when the Yunda government took over, and they didn't know what was happening. Even when we stood eye to eye with China.
Allow me to ask you this.
No. The viewers have to hear this. We stood eye to eye with China in Doklam. Today, the Bhutanese have given that territory away to China. So look, the government does the right thing. Nobody's being critical of the government unnecessarily, but the raw desk is continuously missing out on the important issues. These are critical questions we got to ask as Indians. This does not mean Sanjay or Suhail or the Honorable MP are supporting Maldives. If we don't ask our government questions, who are we going to ask?
Now,
what
let me read out.
Was bigoted.
You don't have, both you and I don't have access to officials of RAW.
Oh, please.
No,
Raw
1
knew
minute.
This was going on for 3 years.
No, 1 minute, Tehseen.
Are you telling the raw desk
I am not saying what you're saying is not right. I am only saying,
correct.
let's address what we can. Abhishek Manu Singhvi, 1 minute.
With that internet thing.
No, 1 minute. Abhishek Manu Singhvi. Now, will it take a raw official to explain to Dr. Singhvi, senior Congress leader, member of parliament, that when the sentiments are pro-India, people are promoting brand India, what is he doing? Not one word of condemnation has come from any senior leaders of Team India. If it has come, please read out the tweet. Then you have Priyanka Chaturvedi, another leader of Team India. Wonder if actors of the government will decide foreign policy. Hope PM's visit will lead to footfall, not FOMO tweets.